The grand hall of Zarentha was silent. Guards stood tall on both sides, wearing shiny armor made from star metal. Above them, golden banners moved gently in the wind of the cooling systems. In the center, on a raised throne, sat Princess Ziana, ruler of the Red Moons. Her eyes were sharp, and her face held no kindness. The large doors opened with a heavy sound. Everyone turned to look. A single human entered the hall. He walked slowly, but without fear. His armor was old, scratched, and dark gray. It did not shine like the armor of the Zyranthan knights. It looked simple, dirty, and heavy. Ziana raised an eyebrow. "This is the human they sent," she asked, her voice full of laughter. "Look at him, he's wearing junk." The court laughed with her. The human stopped a few steps from her throne. He said nothing. He looked around once, as if studying the room, then looked back at her. He didn't bow. He didn't kneel. He just stood there. Ziana stood up slowly and walked down the steps of her throne. Her red cape flowed behind her. She walked close to the human, close enough to see the cracks on his chest plate. "You think you can come here alone, dressed like this, and make demands?" she asked. "You wear armor that looks like it came from a scrapyard." Still, the human said nothing. But then he did something strange. He slowly raised both hands and unlatched the sides of his helmet. With a soft click, he took it off. He was a man in his 30s. His face was calm, but his eyes told a different story. They were cold, full of pain and fire, eyes that had seen too many battles. "Too much death?" Ziana paused, her smile fading just a little. He dropped the helmet to the floor, and it rolled away with a hollow sound. Then he spoke, his voice low but strong. "I didn't come here to impress you. I came to end this, before anyone could move." He started unstrapping his armor, piece by piece. He dropped the metal to the floor. Each sound echoed through the hall. Chest plate, shoulder guards, arm braces, all fell with a thud. Underneath, he wore a tight black suit glowing with blue lines. Ziana's eyes narrowed. That was not a normal suit. It looked alive, moving with his skin. She stepped back slightly. "What are you?" she asked, her voice no longer full of mockery. The human didn't answer. Instead, he reached into a pouch on his leg and pulled out a small crystal. It pulsed with red light, beating like a heart. He tossed it onto the floor, and it cracked, suddenly. The room shook. Light filled the hall, and symbols appeared on the walls. Zyranthan guards pointed their weapons, but none fired. Something about the light made their hands freeze. Ziana looked around, confused and afraid. "What did you do?" she shouted. The human looked straight at her. "You sit on a throne built from fear. You laugh at humans, but you forgot one thing. We learn, we evolve, and we never forget." With that, the floor beneath the crystal opened. A hidden platform rose slowly, holding a device that no one in the room recognized. It hummed with power. Strange and ancient, one guard stepped forward to stop him. The human raised his hand, and the guard flew back into the wall without being touched. Everyone froze. Ziana stepped closer again, but this time with caution. "Who are you really?" she asked, her voice softer now. The man looked at her with those same fire-filled eyes. "I am Commander Riven Kale of Earth," he said, "and I came to finish what your empire started." Ziana's lips parted slightly, her usual pride now mixed with something else, fear. The lights dimmed, the crystal cracked fully, and the hall grew cold. The device behind him began to rise higher, its lights turning from blue to white. It wasn't a weapon, it was a beacon, and it was calling something. Something far away, something powerful. As guards stepped forward again, the human spoke just one word: "Run." Then everything went dark. Only the glow of his suit remained, standing tall in the center of the hall. The stars outside Zyrantha shimmered. Like frozen fire, inside the palace, alarms echoed down every corridor. Red lights blinked in warning, and soldiers ran to their stations. But deep beneath the throne room, in a dark chamber, the human stood calmly. His armor was gone, but what he wore now was far more dangerous. The black suit moved slightly on its own, as if it was breathing. Blue lines pulsed slowly across it, like veins of light. Commander Riven Kale closed his eyes, and the suit responded. A small panel opened on his wrist, showing alien symbols that no Zyranthan had ever seen. Ziana stood at the edge of the platform, staring at the strange device that had risen from the floor. It hummed with a deep, slow sound, as if it was alive. "What is this?" she asked, keeping her voice steady. Riven didn't look at her, but he answered. "This is called a beacon core. It was built on Earth using stolen alien code." Ziana's eyes widened. "Impossible," she whispered. "Your people barely learned how to cross your own moon." Riven finally turned to face her. "That was true until your empire attacked us. You thought you destroyed us, but all you did was wake us up." He raised his wrist again, and the suit's lights changed to red. A hologram appeared in the images of burning cities, alien warships over Earth, and a massive crater. "This is what your father left behind," Riven said. My homegon Ziana stepped closer, watching. The images, her face showed something new. "Guilt. You weren't supposed to survive." She whispered. Riven looked at her with calm fury. "I wasn't supposed to, but they gave me the armor." She turned to him, confused. "What is it?" Riven walked slowly around the beacon core. It was called Project Black Core, an experiment built in secret labs under the Arctic ice. The armor isn't made of metal. It's a living thing. A mix of alien biotech and human neural systems. Ziana's face went pale. "You fused your body with a weapon," she said. Riven nodded. "I didn't want to, but it was the only way to survive your war." From above, the ceiling cracked with noise. More guards were coming. Riven didn't panic. He touched the beacon core, and its light spread across the room. The walls began to change, showing strange shapes and lines. Then the room bent, as if space itself was moving. Ziana gasped. "This isn't your technology," Riven replied. "No, but we learned it." She stepped back, eyes wide. "You're calling something, aren't you?" Riven looked at her. "Not something," he said. "Someone, in space, far from Zyrantha." A hidden Earth ship received the signal. Its captain stood up, smiling. "Riven made it," he said. "Prepare jump." Back in the chamber, Riven removed the last piece of armor from his leg, revealing more of the suit beneath. The suit shifted color dark red now, as if sensing danger. Ziana asked quietly, "Why didn't you attack us right away?" Riven stared at her. "Because I'm not here to destroy your empire. I'm here to show it what real power looks like, and I wanted you to see it first." The platform shook again. Ziana's guards arrived at the door, weapons raised. "Step away from the human." They shouted, but Ziana raised her hand. "Wait," she said. They paused, confused. The beacon core pulsed one last time, and the floor lit up in a perfect circle. "Ah!" Low sound rang out like a heartbeat made of thunder. Ziana turned to Riven and asked, "What's coming through that signal?" He looked at her and replied, "Revenge." Then the light turned blinding white, and a deep voice echoed through the walls. "Command acknowledged. Black Core online." The palace sky above Zyrantha was no longer calm. Invisible energy shimmered in the air like heat waves. Something ancient had been awakened, and it had come with a message from Earth. Inside the palace walls, the alien guards gathered in a circle. Around Commander Riven Kale, their weapons were aimed, ready to fire. But none of them moved forward, not after what they had seen. Not after the beacon core had lit up the entire room. Princess Ziana stood behind them. Silent, her heart was racing, but her face was calm. She had never seen this kind of technot, even in the deepest parts of her father's empire. It was not just new, it was impossible. One brave soldier stepped forward, shouting, "Drop your weapon, human!" But Riven only gave a quiet smile. "I am the weapon," he said. Before the guard could react, the lines on Riven's suit glowed red. In the blink of an eye, he moved, not fast like a man but like lightning itself. One punch sent the guard flying across the room. Crashing into a wall with a loud crack, the others opened fire, red bolts of plasma shooting through the air. But the suit responded on its own. It formed a shield of pure energy, wrapping around Riven like a second skin. Every blast bounced off, leaving only smoke and sparks. Ziana stepped forward, holding out her hand. "Stop," she ordered. The guards froze. Surprised. "Leave us," she said again. Some hesitated. But the look in her eyes made them obey. Now it was just her and the human. The walls around them were still glowing faintly from the beacon core. She walked slowly toward him. "You could have killed them all," she said, "but you didn't." Riven's voice was calm. "I'm not here to kill slaves, I'm here to end the ones who made them." Ziana was quiet for a moment. Then she said something unexpected. "Show me," Riven raised an eyebrow. "Show you what?" She replied, "What this suit really is. What they did to you." He stared at her for a few seconds, then nodded. "Fine," he said. "Look closely." He pressed his hand against his chest, and the suit reacted. The lights turned soft blue, and holograms formed in the air. Ziana saw flashes of images of labs beneath frozen oceans. Doctors in panic, soldiers in pain, wires in flesh, children crying, tests being done again and again. Then she saw him, Riven. Younger, half-broken, tied to a table. And she saw the first time they fused the armor with his nervous system. He screamed. The sound silent but powerful. She flinched, unable to look away. "This is what Earth became after your empire came." He said, "We didn't rebuild, we weaponized our pain." Ziana stepped back, her voice weak. "Why would they do this to you?" "Because I volunteered," he answered. "I watched my city burn. I had nothing left to lose." The holograms faded, and the suit returned to red. The beacon core stopped humming, its message sent. In the distance, a rumble echoed. Something was arriving. Ziana looked at him, her voice shaking slightly. "My father will never allow you to leave this planet." Riven looked up, eyes hard. "Then I'll take his throne with me." Suddenly, a door on the far side of the room opened. A tall alien stepped in, with silver armor and glowing tattoos. His face was cold, and his voice sharper than a blade. "I am High Marshal Vecker," he said. "Under law of Ziarantha, you are to be executed." Riven looked at Ziana. "Is he one of your best?" She nodded. "One of the top 5. Riven rolled his shoulders. "Good." Then he stepped forward, and the air around him cracked like thunder. The fight lasted only minutes, but it was enough to change Ziana's belief forever. Vecker attacked with fire and metal. Riven countered with speed and gravity. Each of his punches crushed the air, and the ground broke under his feet. He wasn't fighting like a man. He was fighting like something else. Finally, Vecker crashed to the ground, unconscious. The floor beneath him turned to ash. Riven stood over him, his suit smoking but still whole. Ziana looked at him now with different eyes. Not as a joke, not as a threat, but as a warning. "You're not just a soldier," she whispered. "You're a weapon built to end empires." Riven didn't reply. He just looked at the stars above, and said, "They started this. I'll make sure they're the last ones to do it." The halls of Ziarantha were still shaking. Guards whispered of defeat, of a human who fought like a god, but deep below. In a forgotten tunnel beneath the palace, 2 figures walked side by side. One wore a living suit born from war. The other wore a crown of lies. Riven Kale walked with quiet steps, his eyes scanning every shadow. Behind him, Princess Ziana followed, her cape torn, her mind heavy. They walked in silence. The only sound was the hum of old machines buried under stone. "This place," Riven said finally. "It doesn't feel like the rest of your palace." Ziana gave a bitter smile. "It's not," she said. "My father doesn't know it exists." They entered. A small chamber lit by glowing roots in the walls. In the center was an old console, covered in dust and forgotten tech. Riven stared at it, confused. "This isn't Zyranthan design," he said. Ziana nodded. "It's human." For a moment, he didn't believe her. Then she reached behind a wall panel and pulled out a metal box. She opened it slowly, revealing a chipped dog tag. It read, "LTJR Stone Earth Defense Corps, my mother found him." She whispered, "A pilot who crash-landed here 20 years ago." Riven looked at her in silence. Ziana walked to the console and placed a tag on it. The screen flickered to life, showing video logs. A man in a torn uniform spoke in the old Earth language. His voice cracked with pain and hope. "They didn't kill me," the man said. "They studied me, helped me heal. But I see what they really want. If anyone finds this, tell Earth don't trust the crown." Ziana turned to Riven, her voice low. "My father never knew. I hid it all, just like my mother did before me." Riven's voice was hard. "And you still serve him." She looked away, her hands shaking. "I was trying to survive. I was raised to wear the crown, not to fight it." Riven stepped closer. "Then why are you helping me now?" She took a deep breath, then looked straight into his eyes. "Because you're the only one who ever scared him, and because I'm tired of pretending." There was silence between them, not cold but heavy, like the air before a storm. Suddenly, a siren rang through the walls. Zyrantha's main power grid had been breached. The beacon core signal had drawn attention. Earth's hidden ship was close. Too close. Ziana pressed a button, shutting down the old console. She turned to Riven. "If you want to survive, you'll need more than that suit. You'll need me." Riven didn't answer right away. He watched her carefully, searching for lies. But all he saw was truth broken, scared, but real. He gave a slow nod. "Then prove it. Help me get to the source." Ziana blinked. "The source crystal." Riven replied, "Your father's power comes from it. Without it, he's just a cruel man in a chair." Ziana hesitated, then whispered, "It's guarded by the Nullborn. They don't sleep, and they don't speak. They are made of shadows and memory." Riven looked unfazed. "I've fought worse," from above. The sounds of heavy boots and engines filled the air. The Emperor had sent his elite. The Crimson Order. Ziana and Riven looked at each other. A strange silence passed between them. Not trust, but something close. Maybe respect, maybe purpose. She handed him a small blade, glowing with green light. "A gift from my mother," she said. "Only used once on my father's enemies." Riven took it, eyes focused. "Let's make it twice." Then, side by side, they vanished into the tunnels below. One carried the fire of Earth. The other carried secrets that could bring down an empire. The underground tunnels of Zyrantha felt colder now. Every step echoed like footsteps in a tomb. Riven Kale moved silently beside Princess Ziana. Their path lit only by the glow of old resistance tech. They were close to the source crystal chamber. Too close, Ziana placed her hand on a wall, and a small door opened with a hiss. Inside was a hidden lift built centuries ago. They stepped in, and the door sealed behind them. For a brief moment, all was quiet. Only the sound of the lift moving upward. Ziana looked at Riven, her voice almost a whisper. "Once we're in the throne core, there's no going back." Riven nodded. "I never planned to," but above them, plans were already changing. The Emperor had learned everything. Not from spies, not from censors, but from Ziana herself. She didn't know it yet. But her necklace, gifted by her father on her coronation, was never just jewelry. It was a tracker and a recorder. As the lift rose, deep within the palace, the emperor sat in his private chamber. Watching the feed, he smiled, not with pride, but with cruelty. "Let them reach the heart," he said to his guards. "I want him to see what betrayal feels like." The lift reached the top, and Riven stepped out first, scanning the throne chamber. It was empty, silent, too quiet. Ziana followed, looking around nervously. "This doesn't feel right," she whispered. Riven agreed. "It's a trap." Suddenly, the floor shifted, and thick walls of energy rose around them. A voice echoed from above, dark and familiar. "My daughter," said the emperor, "you were always weak." Ziana looked up in horror. "No," she whispered. Her father's image appeared in the air, projected through golden light. "You led the weapon to me," he said. "You brought the infection to my door." Guards stepped out from hidden panels in the walls, crimson order elites, their armor black with red eyes. They moved like machines. Without sound or mercy, Riven activated his suit instantly, the red lights on his arms glowing like fire. "Looks like your family reunion is over," he said. Ziana drew her blade. But her hands were shaking. She had trusted too quickly. And now she had led him into the lion's mouth. The emperor's voice grew louder. "You were meant to rule beside me, but now you'll die beside him." Then the floor gave way. The entire chamber collapsed downward like a reverse explosion. Riven grabbed Ziana and shielded her as they fell through spinning air and light. They landed hard in a steel cage deep beneath the palace. No doors, no exits, just curved walls of energy. Ziana coughed, blood on her lip. "I didn't know." She said weakly, "I didn't know he was watching." Riven stood up slowly, his suit sparking from impact. "I should have expected it." He looked around, scanning the energy wall. "This isn't a prison," he said. "It's a testing chamber from above." Mechanical arms began to lower, each one humming with power. Gas filled the room, thick, green and heavy. Ziana collapsed to her knees. Choking, Riven grabbed her and shouted, "Armor, seal air." His suit formed a bubble around them, holding back the gas. But it wouldn't last long. The arms began scanning him, trying to breach the suit, trying to dissect it. Trying to understand what Earth had built. He knew what this was, not execution examination. The Emperor wanted his secrets, not his death. Riven took a breath and said one word. "Override." The suit paused, as if listening, then responded. "Black core override confirmed." A pulse shot out in every direction. The arms shattered. The gas was burned out instantly. The walls flickered, then collapsed. Ziana gasped for air. Crawling to her feet, Riven lifted her up. "We're not dying here," he said. "Not yet." They ran through the broken door. Alarms screaming, floors shaking as they turned a corner. They saw it, her old stealth ship, hidden in the Emperor's vault. Ziana stopped, shocked. He kept it. All this time, they jumped inside, and the ship powered up, reacting to her DNA. She took the pilot's seat, hands flying over controls. "Strap in," she shouted. "Because when we fly out, they'll chase us across the stars." Riven smiled for the first time. "Good," he said. "Let them try." The ship roared to life, broke through the upper walls of the palace as it soared into the dark sky. The Emperor watched from his throne. His smile had vanished. Now he saw what he truly feared. Not just betrayal, but unity. Asterisk far beyond Xyrantha's orbit. Past the rings of flame and dust, a small stealth ship floated in silence. Inside, the lights were dim, the air tense, and the walls still shook with memory of escape. Riven Kale stood near the front window, his eyes fixed on the stars. They looked peaceful from here, but he knew better. War was coming, and this time It would burn through planets, not just cities, behind him. Princess Yana was at the controls, silent, her fingers resting on glowing panels. She hadn't spoken much since they escaped, not about the betrayal, not about her father, and not about the growing fear in her heart. Suddenly, a voice crackled through the ship's comms. Black core signal detected. Earth vessel approaching, friendly signature confirmed. Riven turned, his voice calm. They found us. A massive ship decloaked from deep space, shaped like a spear. Silent but powerful. Its name blinked across the screen. S-Revenant, the docking tunnel connected with a heavy clang. The doors opened, and a woman in a black uniform stepped in. Her eyes sharp and unreadable. Commander Kale. She said, saluting, "We thought you were dead." "Not yet," he replied. "Status." She pulled up a hologram of the galaxy, red zones blinking across key systems. Xyranthos fleet is preparing for full assault. They've declared humans a virus. Ziana stepped forward, her voice steady. "And what are you planning to do?" The woman looked at her with cold curiosity. "Depends on you, Princess. Are you with us, or still wearing your father's crown?" Ziana held her gaze, then replied, "I came to kill a god." Riven nodded. "Then let's plan how to do it." They entered the war room, deep inside the Earthship. The lights were low. Maps and data floated in the air. At the center of it, all one glowing icon. Pulsing red and gold. The source crystal. "This is where his power comes from," Riven said. "It's not just energy. It's alive," Ziana added. "The crystal was found centuries ago, hidden beneath Xyrantha's moon. My father bonded with it, changed him, made him more than flesh." The Earth officers exchanged uneasy glances. Define more than flesh. One asked. Ziana answered quietly. "He doesn't bleed anymore. He doesn't sleep. He feeds on memory and fear." Riven stepped forward. "We don't just need weapons. We need symbols, something the galaxy can believe in again." He pointed at the crystal. "If we destroy that, he falls, his fleets lose power. His soldiers lose direction." Ziana nodded, "And people will rise." The plan was simple, but deadly. A small team would drop into the throne planet during the Empire's shadow eclipse. A moment when all surveillance systems reset for 1 hour. Just one. Riven would go underground to reach the crystal. Ziana would move through the Royal Command Tower and shut down the Nullborn Guard. Any mistake, any delay, and the Emperor would crush them before they reached the inner chamber. That night, before launch, Ziana stood alone in the observatory of the ship. Riven joined her, silent for a moment, then asked, "Do you think this will work?" She didn't answer right away. Then said, "My people were taught that my father cannot die. Even I believed it once, but now?" She looked at Riven, her voice steady. "Now I believe in something else." Riven nodded. "Not in me, in us," she replied. The countdown began. Ships prepared, armor loaded, eyes focused. The Revenant cloaked once more, heading back into the fire. To kill a man who had turned himself into a god and take back the stars. The thronged planet of Xyrantha stood silent beneath the shadow eclipse. Its black sun passed behind its moon, casting the sky in a cold, red light. For the first time in decades, the Empire blinked. For 1 hour, its sensors reset, its surveillance went blind, and in that hour, war entered through the back door. A single stealth drop pod tore through the sky like a burning spear. Inside it, Commander Riven Kale. His armor pulsed with red energy. The black core alive with purpose, not for vengeance, but for ending the war his people never asked for, elsewhere. Another shape broke through Xyrantha's Clouds Princess Ziana. Piloting her old stealth craft, she moved like a ghost between towers. Slipping past security gates she once controlled, today she returned not as royalty, but as rebellion. Riven landed first, smashing through layers of ancient metal and stone. He stood now in the lower chambers of the palace. where no map existed, only myths, only the crystal. The air down here was heavy. Not with heat, but with memory. The walls whispered names. Victims, soldiers, planets erased. The source crystal pulsed in the center of the chamber, massive, floating. Alive, its light crawled across the floor like fingers, and beside it stood the Emperor. He no longer looked like a man. His skin was glass, his eyes burned white. Lines of energy ran through his body like veins of lightning. So, the Emperor said calmly, "The human weapon returns." Riven stepped forward. "I'm not a weapon. I'm what happens when you push a species too far." They clashed, not with words, but with power. The black core unleashed everything it had. Every system, every upgrade, every painful experiment tease, all came to life. The Emperor responded with raw energy, shaping gravity, bending space itself. The chamber cracked. The ground split. Time twisted. Riven fought like a storm, moving faster than bullets, hitting harder than machines. But the Emperor could not be broken, not while the crystal lived. Above, Ziana reached the command tower inside. The console for the Nullborn stood glowing red. She hacked it with a code hidden in her mother's last message. The Nullborn froze mid-step across the palace, then shattered into ash, down below. Riven took one final hit, thrown across the room. Like a comet, his armor sparked, broken, his breathing heavy. The Emperor raised his hand to strike when a blade flew through the air. Glowing green, Ziana's dagger. It pierced the Emperor's shoulder knot enough to kill him, but enough to make him turn. And in that moment, Riven stood. He tore the core from his chest, and with a roar of defiance, slammed it into the crystal. Light exploded across the galaxy. The source crystal shattered, and the Emperor screamed. Not in pain, but in fear. His body cracked like glass, and then he was gone. The chamber collapsed. The walls gave way. Ziana grabbed Riven's arm, and together they ran. The Revenant ship appeared above them. Doors open, lights reaching down. They leaped, grabbed the edge, and were pulled aboard as the palace behind them vanished into red dust. Silence. Then Riven stood before the ship's command deck. Eyes tired but clear, he activated the comms linked them to every free system. Every hidden rebellion, every frightened world. His voice was heard in 1,000 languages. "My name is Riven Kale. I come from a world your empire tried to erase. But we adapted, we endured, and now we rise." He looked at Ziana, standing beside him, her crown in her hands. She placed it on the floor and stepped on it. Crushing it under her boot, Riven continued. "To every world watching, this is your signal. You are not alone. You never were. Across the galaxy, people listened, and they stood, some with weapons, some with courage, all with hope.